Middleton-Leal. How are you?
I'm great. Yourself?
I'm doing fabulous.
Cool.
We're in the center of Infosecurity 2026, in the heart of the Risk Operations Center, inside the Qualys booth. What better place is there?
Well, this is the beating heart of risk management, right? So we're super excited to be here, for sure.
It's a cool setup, and I have to say I had a quick chat with Richard Searson a number of months back at RSA conference. I got a nice overview, but you've done a lot of work since then, and we're going to catch up and talk about all the cool things that the ROC can do, and the outcomes that drives for some of your customers. Brief word about who you are and what your role is at Qualys.
Yeah, so as you said, Matt Middleton-Leal. I'm the Regional Vice President for Qualys across Northern Europe. I've been here over 5 years now. I've been in cybersecurity over 25 years. I've been a practitioner. I've been in sales, and I'm now in leadership as part of the Qualys management team for Europe. We've got a very diverse team over here. We've got a very large customer base. The great thing for me is I get to meet lots and lots of very senior people in our customer base. So I get to hear about their challenges, understand what they need to be more effective, and get early insight into some of the problems coming.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here. And as a practitioner, I think I've not been a practitioner.
Okay.
I wish I had at some point, maybe someday. But I like to nerd out on risk. Am I going out on a limb to say you like to nerd out on risk?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we're going to nerd out a little bit here. So give me an overview, because this is something relatively new in the Qualys world, and I think it's new in the industry in terms of what you're trying to accomplish here with the Risk Operations Center. So give us an overview of what it is.
I think, if you look at our industry to date, we've always had this kind of challenge where cyber and IT operations work together, but I wouldn't say play together very nicely.
Right.
Now, where we are today is we have so many risk signals in a business, so many data points, so many dashboards. We can't really work out what it is we need to prioritize and what we need to fix. So the Risk Operations Center is designed to bring that data together in a way that enables businesses to make the appropriate decision based on the risk level, business context, and also financial impact, so that they make the right decisions and prioritize the right remediation strategies and fixes, super important, the fixes piece, in their environment. It's about bringing the organization together. The ROC isn't a product. The ROC is a concept of how businesses can be more effective at reducing risk, not just measuring it, which is what cyber used to be really good at.
Right.
Can't just measure it anymore. We've got to focus on how we remediate.
Operationalize the mindset is kind of how I think about it. And then, I guess back in the day, we're building SIMs and SOARs and enabling SOC teams to do what? Deal with things in real time and make decisions in real time to keep the business up and running in real time. I love the idea of the Operations Center for Risk to do similar things that you described, which is what's the insight we have, what's the context of that information, and what are we going to do with that information in the moment that matters for the business.
Absolutely.
So how does this fit into the broader business operations, so IT ops, risk ops, connected to security ops, and I don't know, there's rev ops, all kinds of ops now, right?
Absolutely.
So how does this
all
connect?
So look, I think if look at the most basic terms, as you say, cyber's had SOCs for ages, right? IT have had NOCs. Right? We're not trying to just say generate something for the sake of it. It's not a marketing concept. But if you consider what a SOC is dealing with threat. Something's happened in my business. I need a team of people who are proactively monitoring and dealing with those issues that have arisen. So they are effectively looking in the rearview mirror of the car and dealing with problems that have arisen. The concept of ROC is we're actually now driving the car, we're looking forward, we're looking at where our business is going, we're understanding the risk on the horizon, and we're trying to remediate it before it hits the SOC. So that is in its most simple complex how it fits into the business. But also it then brings in REMOps as another term, right? Because cyber for too long has been focused on dashboarding. And the understanding, the knowledge of vulnerabilities and risk and misconfigurations and all that stuff is important, but knowing it doesn't reduce it.
Right.
So remediation operations need to be embedded in this so we can actually drive down risk and actually remediate it fast. And we'll probably come on to that, I expect.
Yeah. So you said it's not a product, but this comes together in some digital form. So what does that look like? Right. What is it?
Yeah.
It has to be something, I presume. And then
Absolutely.
and who's sitting in front
There's some secret sauce, that's for sure. So look, I think we would love everyone to have only Qualys products, right? But we're realistic. We know that's not reality. But at the heart of it, what you have to be able to do is amalgamate data. You need a data lake, effectively, that you can use to normalize the information you're getting from, organizations typically have 40 plus security tools, all with different measurements of risk, with different alerting mechanisms, etc. How do you take that together, normalize it, enrich it, which is a super important part? So Qualys, you probably know, we take 25 threat feeds plus our multiple researchers we have in our threat research unit, and we enhance the data we pull in from our own sources, but also third-party sources. So, for example, we might be pulling in Microsoft Defender data. We enrich that for the people that work with us in a ROC, and actually present that data in a normalized fashion. So you make the right decision based on a very visible and measurable set of data points.
So, Qualys, been around for a long time. Philippe is a visionary in this space. How does this help your customers kind of transform and do more with the business? I don't know if you have any examples of, because in my opinion, unlocking risk and managing risk is like having the brakes on the car, where you can actually drive the car, and we use a car analogy, right, at its full potential, not holding back because you don't know where you're going to come across as you turn the corner. So how does Philippe's vision and the current solutions that you have now with the ROC help your customers unlock what their potentials are?
I think the challenge has always been, right, and if you go back, it's a bit of a joke analogy, that the IT security department, but the department that said no,
right?
And I hate that as an expression, but there is some truth in that, right? If we move that to where we are today in an AI-driven world, there is no. There's even, we did what type conversation rather than no now, because these things are happening. So what we need to do is build a framework for our customers, which enables them to manage that hyperscale change that's happening in the AI world with frontier models, and actually do it so they can just adopt things, they can change in real time. If we're operating in a world where we've got to rely on service desk tickets before we make a change, we've already failed, right? We're done.
We're done.
So now we've got to look to build an infrastructure, an operations center, a risk operations center, which can make changes and remediate risk at machine speed, because it's going to be detected and changed at machine speed. Yeah. So you've got to align those two new principles. And actually what it's going to do, it's going to change mindsets. So CEOs, as we know, are asking many of our customers, what are we doing about some strange Greek word, right? Trying not to say it, but frontier model. So they're asking how they're doing about that. And actually the only answer is we're going to have to change our operating model to remediate these risks at machine speed. And it's a mindset change. So whatever tool you use in the background, they've got to change the organizational mindset to meet that new challenge.
Yeah. So how give me an example too. You don't have to name customers unless they want to be named, but example or two of where the mindset is shifted.
Yeah.
And the outcomes are X, Y, and Z.
So I was with a very large client, 90,000 endpoints, big business. We were invited in by the IT security department to go and talk about how we can transform their IT estate. At the same meeting, they brought in their head of IT operations and cloud. We don't talk to traditionally, right? That's not a customer of ours. But this person came in, we presented what we do. The IT security guy was saying things like, okay, so with AI, tell me how you detect it. With configuration changes, with compliance mandates, how do you follow whether we're following NIST, as an example? The IT ops guy kept turning butty and going, I don't really care. Can you tell me how you're going to help us fix it when you get it? So in this environment, what we ended up doing is bringing the security team and the IT operations team together. Now, in fact, their big issue was they expected to roll out 90,000 MCP agents in a very short space of time. And the risk that brought to their business, because no one really knows what these things are doing yet. Right. What are they communicating with? What data they processing? And where's that data going? Yeah. They want to be able to monitor that, control it, and look at the future. But it really brought that client together in terms of their team. So security, IT operations, and cloud working together in collaboration. Yeah. And I think that was a major shift we've seen, and that's really been driven in the last couple of months.
Any other examples that you want to share?
Well, I can give you this kind of 62 million risk findings. Have you heard that one? I can share that with you. So another client we work with, we actually analysed the data from Qualys and 3 of our competitors. So I won't name, but
Okay.
we found 62 million findings, risk findings, right? Now, as a business, if you look at that and say, how do I go about, remediating that?
Right.
It's an elephant you're never going to be able to eat.
Right.
So what we then did is we put that data from Qualys and the third party with this particular client, we put it through the threat intelligence engine, and actually it took that 62 million findings down to something like 2 million.
Yep.
So there are actually only 2 million findings in that risk data, which posed a theoretical, I'll use the word theoretical carefully, theoretical risk to their business. We then added a layer of business context to it and said, now what are the actual important assets which those risks are now detected on? That took that down to like 1 million. So now suddenly 1 million findings. Yeah, my IT ops team might be okay to reduce that. Next evolution in that, and when I started, I talked about exposure management.
Right.
That is not a definition of your exposure, those findings. That's a theoretical, I use the word theoretical risk. What we're now doing is enabling organizations to test with benign payloads whether any of those 1 million vulnerabilities can actually be executed in their environment. Do they compensate controls, the investments they've made today? Are they protecting them? Do they need to panic about those findings? And if you think about that in an AI-generated vulnerability world, when they're coming through at machine speed, you have to be running that real time. So it's like real-time pen testing on steroids. So that then takes that down to sub 1% of those 62 million findings that the ops teams actually need to remediate. So that's a real use case, which I think shows high prioritization and why remediation is so important.
It's fantastic. The reason I'm pulling on those threads is, I like to nerd out at it, but it can be complicated, right? And Richard's spent a lifetime trying to help talk about and communicate what risk is and how to measure it and define and measure it. And clearly this is a way to do that specific to the business. So my question to you is, for people who are afraid or not comfortable with and understanding risk, what is it, where is it, how do I identify it, how do I measure it, how do I talk about it, how do I deal with it, how do I respond to it? What level of organization can you help? Do they have to have some level of knowledge and wherewithal to get started, or can you help some of the smaller organizations who may not have a huge team?
I think
get up and running.
And by the way, that's a great question, because the ability to truly quantify risk, both from a complete organization perspective and from a financial perspective, was kind of the only for the giant banks in this world, right? For giant insurance companies, etc. The average
kind of get it anyway.
Just didn't have the resources, manpower to do that, right? And it's kind of unfair because they need the data to do that. So really what Rich has helped us do, and we're building now, is the ability to take that to the masses, the way I like to kind of describe it, right? So how do you give organizations the financial data which relates to a particular loss class, which could be ransomware, for example? How do you take that data, allow them to say, well, I'm in manufacturing, an organization similar to me in manufacturing that's in my territory, so in the UK or the US or wherever it may be, if they've had a ransomware attack, what is the likely loss and what's the likelihood of loss to my business? But giving that data through a technological fashion through the ROC, so that actually we automate that and provide that data in real time. So they can actually make appropriate business decisions without having to kind of hire hundreds of highly paid analysts, right, to kind of create theoretical models, which are very hard to justify.
Right. And hard.
Really hard, yeah.
And it's especially...
Even with Richard's book, it's still hard.
That's right. Exactly. And that's general. And as soon as you try to apply your own business to it, and then your own space that you operate in, and it's geopolitical, all that stuff starts to get crazy. So it's great that you guys are here to help with that. We can chat for hours. I think we'll have another chance to do another conversation in Vegas or Black Hat. We'll dig deeper into some of these things.
Great stuff.
Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure speaking to you.
And final question, address the crew. How does somebody get started on the Risk Operations Center with you guys?
I think, I would highly recommend, reaching out to Qualys. We'll give you a starting point. I'd always say the starting point is understanding your assets And that is absolutely always the place to start. So I would start there for anyone, whether you're using Qualys or not, understand your asset, and then you can start securing it.
Perfect. Right on. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
And thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for more here from InfoSec 2026. We'll bet with Matt and the Qualys team.